So, I should say that as a way of trying to conclude this discussion, I should say that this film came in 1991, and this is after the martial law in Taiwan has been lifted. So after the lifting of martial law, we are getting more films that are trying to speak to the Taiwan experience. Remember significant films that came, for instance, Hou Xiaoshen's City of Sadness, which spoke to a very arguably dark period in the history of Taiwan. And also, we could say that A Brighter Summer Day, too, seems to be speaking, at least obliquely, to a very dark period in Taiwan history with respect to how the story of the father and his interrogation and the white terror aspects are being depicted in A Brighter Summer Day. So I would say that this film, at least as far as I understand New Taiwan cinema, according to the documentary that is featured on the Blu-ray of this film, this comes at a very interesting moment in the trajectory of New Taiwan cinema. Of course, a lot of things happened since the early 80s, and a lot of financial constraints and a lot of realities in terms of box office failures, etc., seem to be creeping in from about 1984, 1985 onwards. And so that created a certain rift in certain relationships that used to be very strong in the early 80s in New Taiwan cinema. And so we come to 1991, and Hou Xiaoshen is already emerging with very quote-unquote personal films. And also we have Edward Yang coming with this film in this filmography, which is, if we recall, there was his segment In Our Time, which was a segment that was in the 1960s. But then his directorial feature films, That Day on the Beach, Taipei Story, Terrorizers, they all occur pretty much in the present day, the 1980s, and the Taiwan city experience. Here we have, therefore, a story in the 1960s, going back in time, so to speak, and dealing with certain aspects of the Taiwan experience. And Tony Rayns, in his commentary, is very careful and very emphatic when he says that this is not meant to be an autobiographical depiction of Edward Yang's life, although there are certain aspects that appear that seem to be reflective of Edward Yang's experience to some degree. But this is still a very deep, rich, and according to Tony Rayns, a very personal film. Therefore, it is a work that is truly vital and very important. I should say one thing here while I have the chance. Tony Rayns' commentary is astounding, and I love it. I think it is really great. I think his commentary is filled with so much of information that it's amazing that he was able to pull it off, because it's truly remarkable. I should say, however, a very, very minor point about the commentary by Tony Rayns. Again, this is very minor. At around the 15-minute mark, 15 minutes, 8 seconds, for those of you who are keeping count. This is very early on in the film. There's a shot of the exterior of a house, and it's taken from a bit of a distance. We can't see the face of the girl who walks out, but it's a shot of a girl who walks out, and she's in a school uniform. It's a green shirt with a black dress, and she's holding a book, and she's walking out of the house. 15 minutes, 8 seconds. Tony Rayns describes the scene as being Ming leaving the household. In fact, I don't think that's correct. I don't think this is Ming. I'm not sure why Tony Rayns calls this Ming, because I think actually this is the second eldest sister of the Chang household, the sister who is very much into Christianity. So I think this is the sister. And the reason why I think it's the sister, because she's holding a book And the sister is often seen with a book in her hand, so she seems to like to read. Also, she's wearing a green dress, not a green dress, a green shirt. So this is the school uniform shirt color that the Christianity sister, or the sister who is into Christianity, is seen wearing elsewhere in the film. Ming, by the way, doesn't have a green shirt. Her school uniform shirt color is white. So I think this is not Ming at all. So I'm not sure why Tony Rayns refers to the character as Ming. In fact, I think it's not Ming. It's the Chang's sister who is into Christianity. And in fact, the same shot is seen again later in the film at the 2-hour, 41-minute mark, or around that area. It's the same shot, and in fact, this is the shot that is acknowledging the fact that this is the Chang household exterior. And then we also see this shot later when the father returns after he is being freed from his interrogation, around the 2-hour, 40-minute mark or so, somewhere around there. So this is all to say, that's just a very minor point, but I do want to make that point because at the 15-minute mark, the character that leaves the household is not Ming, but it's, I think, the second sister of the Chang household. But again, that's a very minor point in a commentary that is A+++. It is a brilliant commentary, one of the great commentaries of the Criterion Collection, a truly astounding effort from the legend that is Tony Rayns. A great commentary. I should say also that kudos to the great character, the mother, played by the brilliant actor Elaine Jin. Her performance is one of the great performances. The scene in particular between the mother and the father, where they break down and they realize that after all that's happened to the father, really they only have each other, and they're crying outside, remember? And it's such a tender moment. And Elaine Jin, as an actor, is one of the greats, one of the legends. I don't think it's I don't think it's a random act that the last character we see in the film before the film ends is the mother, Elaine Jin, outside after all the events of the film have occurred. What must be going through her mind at that moment as the film then fades to black or cuts to black? I have no idea, but it's really significant that we end on the mother. So much has happened to this family, and my goodness, what she must be thinking at that moment. Can't even begin to imagine. Elaine Jin, what a brilliant actor. What a brilliant performance. We, of course, will see her again in another Edward Yang film that I hope to discuss very soon. Ultimately, therefore, as a way of ending this, where does this film fall in the context of Edward Yang's filmography, at least as far as I see it? Well, I've mentioned it a little bit before. This is the first time that he, as a full feature-length film, he is going into the past rather than talking about the modern-day experience of Taiwanese people living in Taipei, etc. So we're going back to the past, and there is a certain level of complexity, of generations, of children and adults, of authority and freedom, and this idea of love and perceptions gone wrong. So there is something different going on, but at the same time there's something that's very similar with his other films as well, because as I tried to suggest, everything has a significance. I don't think, for lack of a better word, and I apologize for using this word, the zeitgeist, but there is something very much in the moment with respect to every little significant movement, reaction, circumstance, event that occurs. It's at once very intimate and personal to that particular character, such as Xiao Si or others, but then at the same time it stands for something that is so much more within the Taiwan experience, or of the Taiwan experience, or about the Taiwan experience. And in that respect, this film explodes off the screen in a myriad of ways that is impossible for me to catch every little aspect. Although I do try my best, I fail every single time I watch it. That being said, I am blown away every time I see this film, because there is a real vitality that is inexorable, that is tight, that is alluring, appealing, so sad, so tragic. And through it all, it is because of the brilliance of Xiaosi, Chen Chen, at the center, at the heart of this film. I don't know how he did it. I think his interview that's on the Criterion disc is fascinating. But this performance by Chen Chen is one of the greatest I've ever seen. I think I mentioned this before in another video, but there is something so personable about him as a character. There is something very charming about him. And again, I'm not Taiwanese. I don't claim to be an expert on the experience of Taiwan. And I don't ever want to seem like I'm an expert. So I'm very much an outsider. And I don't have any direct experience. So I can't claim to sympathize with the character of Xiaosi in the context of 1960s Taiwan. But what I can say is that I do see, I do have a sympathy towards the fact that he is very rebellious during this time. He's trying to resist authority with respect to acts of injustice that he understands that have occurred with respect not only to him, but also to his father and other people that he loves in his life. So I really sympathize with his feelings of things that have been wrongs or injustices that have occurred. And because of that, I do see a lot of myself in Xiaosi. Or how should I, well, let me put it a different way. I think Xiaosi reminds me about certain aspects of myself that I think were inside me when I was young at that age. So I can see, not everything, but I can see some aspects of myself in Xiaosi, or Xiaosi reminds me about certain aspects of my character, some good, some not so good. And so on that very intimate level, I can connect with his story so much. Therefore, the ultimate, what happens to him ultimately, right? I mean, he gets all riled up because of his jealousy towards Ma after he finds out that Ming is now living with Ma. So, right, he wanted to get back at Ma, but he couldn't do it because of certain circumstances. Ma didn't come out of the school on time, so he tried to escape when he saw Ming, but Ming caught up with him, and the knife just dropped out of his pants. So all these little unfortunate set of circumstances just piled on until ultimately he just snapped. So I can say that I don't necessarily not understand his experience. I think I can sympathize with the idea of just external forces working against him, and just feeling lost, and feeling bereft, and feeling not knowing what to do. This urge to want to snap out. It's symbolic, of course, in terms of the way he just almost robotically just kills Ming in a very terrible fashion. It's terrible, truly terrible. But what I'm trying to get at is just this idea of trying to lash out against something that we perceive as being against us, whether it's authority or whatever. I mean, I don't not sympathize with that. So I do see, or let me say, Xiaosi does remind me about certain aspects of my own character. Not completely, but certain aspects. So therefore, I really connect with Chaucer, and what happens to me, and it just breaks my heart every time. Leaves me shattered and just lost. And it's an experience that I just feel emotionally drained until at the end, when everything is black and it's finished, I can only just heave a sigh and really try to sit back and just do my best to try to figure out exactly how I'm feeling after watching an astounding work of art like A Brighter Summer Day. Every time I watch it, I'm left stunned. I can't speak for hours because I'm just left with my own thoughts, wondering, figuring out, trying to sift through my own feelings and emotions. It's very hard, but that is the effect that this film has on me. And so the film, A Brighter Summer Day, operates on me in a way that is ultimately very personal. It gets at me in a place that I'm very uncomfortable. And so I therefore am drawn to it all the more. And it is for that reason why I consider it one of my favorite films ever. I consider it one of the greatest films ever. It is a film that I recommend everyone watch many times if possible. It is a film that leaves me stunned every time. It is a film that I realize every time I watch it how little I know about the film. And it is a work of art that is, it transcends its own physical limitations, and it becomes something that is beyond itself, something that is miraculous, something that is an exemplar of all things truly great about cinema. A Brighter Summer Day by Edward Yang. Okay, my friends, let me end it there. So sorry about the long video. I hope you can forgive me, but this was A Brighter Summer Day. Next time, I will be talking about another film by Edward Yang, which is called Confusion. So until we meet again, my friends, please be happy and healthy and well. If you want to talk to me about this film, please, of course, leave a comment below, and I'd be very happy to discuss this film with you. And otherwise, I hope you're well. And until we meet again, my friends, cheers.